Good morning, everyone. Here I am, as promised, with my final walkthrough of my Global Getaway Simple Kit album. And for those of you that were following along with me, you know that my goal was to complete an album in an entire weekend. I went to a crop this past weekend, and that was my goal. I didn't have a whole lot of time to work on the album. Let's start there. But I was able to cobble together about 5 hours, and I did complete the album. And when I say complete the album, what I mean by that is I had all of the layouts completed with the pictures on them, embellishment stickers, everything was on them. What I did not have on them was all of the titles. I didn't bring my die cutting machine and my dies, so I had to go back this week and add all of the titles to my pages. That took me to cut everything out and adhere everything about another hour and a half. So in total, from the start of the very first opening the page kit until complete, took me about 6.5 hours. So if I had had time over the crop weekend, dedicated time, I would have finished it easily. Now, what I can tell you about the guidebook is the simple page kits come with everything that you need. So it has the paper, it has the embellishment, it has the stickers, it has everything that you need. Then in the guide, it gives you the layouts of exactly how you should put the album together. That's great, that's a starting point. But as we always say with sketches, that's where you start. It doesn't necessarily mean that's where you finish. So for example, on my very first page, it calls for 2 horizontal pictures. I didn't have 2 horizontal pictures. What I was sent was 2 vertical pictures. So I took this block and I rotated the box 90 degrees and I put 2 vertical pictures in, and then I combined my embellishments into one spot so that everything would fit on the page and look cohesive. I did that several times throughout the album. I would rotate the page, I would rotate the pictures. I would not cut down my pictures because the scenes were too beautiful. I didn't want it to be 4x4. I wanted it to remain 4x6. So as we go through, I will point out some of the differences, but in general, my goal was to stick as close to this simple page kit album sketchbook as I could. So let's go ahead and let's get started with the first page. So as you can see, like I said, I rotated the block 90 degrees so that I could put my 2 vertical pictures in, and I combined my embellishments into one embellishment. This one, I stayed true to the layout exactly. I did add a peekaboo pocket because I had one more photo to put on the page. The other subtle differences that I did add to the simple page kit was I did ink around some of my embellishments, papers, just to give it a little bit of dimension, and I used foam tape also on some of my embellishments. Again, just adding some dimension to the page. But these are tools that we have on our Creative Memories line. These are tools that we can teach our beginners, so I kept that in the album. So here's one that I did change. Not a lot, but I did change it a little bit. So if you look at the layout, it has a horizontal. I didn't have a horizontal, I had a vertical, so I changed it to vertical. And then they wanted you to cut this one page down to 3.5 by 3.5. Again, I didn't want to cut the picture down, so I kept it. By adding this, I didn't have a lot of room for my embellishment down here, so I just moved my embellishment over. Otherwise, I kept pretty true to the sketch. On here, they only had 2 pictures. I had 4. So I added all 4. And again, because I added the 4, I did not have room for my embellishment here. I moved my embellishment over here. And I added another little title. So that was something else that I did, was I didn't necessarily keep the same embellishments on the page. I tried to, but in some circumstances, they just really didn't match with my pictures. So in that case, I moved the embellishments off to the side, and then I came back later with what I had left over to fill in. This was fun. The only thing I added here was I had these leftover frames from the Global Getaways collection, and so I went ahead and tilted them and added them, again, just for a little pop of fun. And then they had just one picture and I had more, so I added more pictures. That's probably the biggest change that you'll see when you look through my album is I added more pictures to the sketches. Olivia had such great pictures. I wanted to incorporate as many of them as I could. Here's another example. This one was a 4 square. You can see here, but they were small photos and I didn't want to cut mine small. So because of that, I kept it big. I'm just realizing that that piece got missed. Oh, the reason that I didn't have that piece was because I needed it for the mats, so that I kept my mats long. And then I just moved my embellishment down from my title. And on this side, it was supposed to be 4 3.5 by 3.5, but I didn't have that. I just had a big 4 by 6, which I wanted to keep. So by adding that, I just took the embellishment from down in this right-hand corner and I moved it up to the right, up to the upper block to fill in that space. But it still looks good. It still keeps very close to the sketch. I added gems. That was something that I did add. Again, just to lighten up the page a little bit. Here's another example. So these embellishments were supposed to go on another page, but she was at a national park. So I felt like the trail sign and everything worked perfectly with the national park. So I did flip this set of embellishments to come to this page. And interestingly enough, just so you guys are aware, this is the simple page kit that everybody starts with. And you'll see that they use a lot of pictures. I did not have that many pictures. So because of that, I took my big, huge, long pieces of paper. I cut them into mats, and then that left me with a little bit of extra paper that I could use later to help cut out titles and pages. So this was the simple page kit. This is what I turned it into because of what I had on hand with my pictures. And I think it turned out great. I'm excited about it. So here's where I used that extra paper is when I needed it for this page. So this one I changed pretty significantly just because of all of the photos that I had. You can see. I turned this into a column of landscape, and then to match it, I turned this into a column. But again, that's what a sketch is. It's using what you have and twisting it, turning it to make it work for your pictures. And hopefully when you look at my album, what you see first is the pictures. That is always my goal, is to make the pictures the heroes of your album. When you turn the page, you should be looking at the pictures. And I love this page. I don't know why I like it so much. Maybe because there's just so many pictures. It's so fun. I love it. I love how it turned out. Here's an example, like these row houses were supposed to go on, I think they were supposed to go on this page actually. And because I added this photo, so this, everything else is the exact same as the sketch. Here's the sketch. So everything else is exactly the same with the sketch, except for I had one extra photo, so I added it. So when I had that one extra photo, I didn't have room for this great big huge embellishment. So I moved that embellishment over here, and then I moved those houses to the side to use later. And then they worked out perfectly for this page because they kind of matched the buildings. In this case, there were supposed to be 5 photos. I didn't have another photo, so I put a journal card in here and she'll be able to write on there. Again, using what I had from the stash. This was fun. I didn't know what to put on the tags, and so I had a couple extra photos. This was a butterfly garden they went to, and I had some close-up of the butterflies, and then I loved that. And I said, oh, I'm just going to put those in the tags, and it worked perfectly. And this photo, it was supposed to be 2 3.5 by 3.5 photos. And again, I didn't have 2 photos. I just had the one, but I cut it in half. And then it works perfect. This is my favorite page. I don't know why. I guess because blue is my favorite color. The pictures are blue. The background is blue. I love snow. I live in the South. I never get snow. So I love when I see pictures of snow or I can use snow. I'm jealous of the Northeast blizzard. Well, not really. That's a lot of snow. I don't know what I would do with all that snow. I hope everybody in the Northeast is doing okay. But I just love this page. And this is pretty true to the example of what it was supposed to look like. Here it is. I kept pretty true. Again, I kept a 4x6 and instead of turning it into a 4x4. That was probably the biggest thing, was her pictures are so beautiful. I wanted to keep the full 4x6 size. And the last page. So there's my album. I love it. I think it turned out great. For a 6.5 hour album, I am very proud of it. I would be proud to give this to anybody. Again, this is the Global Getaway Simple Album, Simple Page Kit Album, Simple Album Kit. So it can be done. They say that the simple page kit the simple album kits can be done in a weekend. I'm telling you, 6.5 hours, this album is complete, ready to go. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a great rest of the week, and thank you for watching, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.